The dust-choked road shimmered in the afternoon heat as Naomi Turner's wagon creaked over the rocky terrain. She had been warned about traveling alone through Colorado territory in 1876, but what choice did she have? After her father's passing 3 months prior, the Boston life she had known vanished, replaced by a desperate journey west to claim her uncle's homestead near Georgetown. Naomi wiped sweat from her brow and adjusted her bonnet, the sun bearing down mercilessly on her fair skin despite the approaching evening. The two tired horses pulling her wagon trudged forward, their heads hanging low as they navigated the uneven path. Her worldly possessions, clothes, books, family heirlooms, and enough supplies to start anew shifted behind her with each jolt and bump. "Just a few more miles," she murmured to herself, studying the hand-drawn map her uncle had sent years ago. "We'll rest properly in Georgetown." The sound came first thundering hoofbeats approaching from behind. Naomi turned, her heart leaping to her throat as she spotted 5 riders cresting the hill, closing the distance rapidly. Their faces were obscured by bandanas, hats pulled low, but their intent was clear in the rifles they brandished and the predatory way they surrounded her wagon. "Whoa there, miss," the apparent leader, a burly man with a scar visible above his mask, called out as they forced her to stop. "Looks like you're carrying quite a load. Traveling alone, are ya?" Naomi's hands trembled on the reins. "I'm expected in Georgetown. They'll be looking for me if I'm delayed." The men laughed, a sound that chilled her despite the heat. "Hear that, boys? She's expected." The leader sneered, sliding from his horse. "Well, we'll just have to make this quick then. Step down from the wagon." "I will do no such thing," Naomi replied, summoning courage she didn't feel. The man's eyes hardened. "Wasn't asking, lady." One of the bandits grabbed her arm, yanking her from the driver's seat. She fell hard, pain shooting through her hip as she hit the ground. Her belongings were already being ransacked, boxes thrown open, fabric ripped. "Please," Naomi begged, scrambling to her feet. "Those are all I have left," the leader backhanded her, sending her reeling. "Shut your mouth. Check the strongbox under the seat," he ordered his men. A single gunshot cracked through the air, startling everyone. Naomi looked up to see a rider approaching fast from the east, silhouetted against the setting sun. "That'll be far enough," a deep voice commanded as the stranger drew closer, rifle raised. He was tall in the saddle, broad-shouldered, with a weather-beaten hat and a determined set to his jaw. "This ain't your business, cowboy," the bandit leader spat. "I'm making it my business." The stranger's horse danced beneath him, but his aim remained steady. "The lady clearly doesn't want your company." The bandits spread out, creating a half circle. 5 against 1, the odds were poor for the newcomer. Naomi held her breath. What happened next unfolded in a blur of motion and sound. The stranger fired again, catching one bandit in the shoulder. He wheeled his horse expertly, using the animal as both shield and weapon as he charged toward the wagon. 2 more shots, one bandit fell, clutching his leg. The leader raised his pistol, but the cowboy was faster, putting a bullet through the man's hand. A howl of pain echoed across the plains as the weapon fell to the dust. "Your choice," the cowboy called out, leveling his rifle at the remaining men. "Ride away now, or don't ride away at all." The wounded leader cursed viciously but signaled retreat. The bandits mounted their horses, the 2 wounded men helped by their companions, and galloped away, dust billowing in their wake. Naomi stood frozen, unable to believe what had just occurred. The cowboy dismounted in one fluid motion, approaching her with cautious steps, as if afraid she might bolt like a startled deer. "Are you hurt, madam?" he asked, his voice gentler now. She touched her cheek where she'd been struck, feeling the sting. "No, not badly." He nodded, looking over the scattered contents of her wagon. They made quite a mess, but I think we scared them off before they could take much. She asked, finding her voice. A small smile touched his lips as he holstered his weapon. Figure of speech. Name's Adam Morgan. I was headed to Georgetown myself when I heard the commotion. Naomi Turner, she replied, suddenly aware of her disheveled appearance. I'm in your debt, Mr. Morgan. He shook his head, helping her gather items from the ground. No debt needed, couldn't just ride past. As they worked to restore order to her wagon, Naomi studied her rescuer. He moved with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to handling himself in dangerous situations. His face was tanned from long days under the sun, with lines at the corners of his eyes suggesting he smiled often. Not handsome in the refined way of Boston gentlemen, but striking nonetheless. They might come back, Adam said, securing the last box. With reinforcements, Georgetown's still a few hours' ride. There's a creek about a mile ahead where we can make camp if you're agreeable. I'd feel better seeing you safely to town in the morning. Naomi hesitated. Traveling and camping with a stranger, even one who had just saved her, went against everything she'd been taught about propriety. Reading her expression, Adam added, "You can keep your pistol close if it makes you feel safer. I'll sleep by the fire, you in your wagon." "How did you know I have a pistol?" she asked, surprised. He nodded toward the small bulge in her skirt pocket. "Boston lady traveling alone across the frontier. I'd be more surprised if you didn't." That drew a reluctant smile from her. "Very well, Mr. Morgan, I accept your escort to Georgetown." As they traveled to the creek, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in vibrant oranges and purples. Adam rode alongside her wagon, alert to any sounds or movements around them. When they reached the small waterway, he efficiently set about making camp, tending the horses before gathering wood for a fire. Naomi worked alongside him, grateful for his help but determined not to appear helpless. She'd managed alone since leaving Boston. She wouldn't become dependent now. "You handle yourself well for an Easterner," Adam observed as she expertly built the fire. "My father believed in practical education," she replied, striking a match. "He said books were important, but so was knowing how to survive." "Smart man." "He was." Sadness colored her voice. "He passed this spring. Influenza." Adam nodded solemnly. "I'm sorry for your loss." As the fire crackled between them, Naomi finally asked, "What brings you to Georgetown, Mr. Morgan?" He poured coffee into 2 tin cups, handing one to her. "Just Adam, please." "I've been working cattle drives between Texas and Colorado for the past few years. Decided it might be time to put down some roots. Heard Georgetown's silver mines are bringing in steady work. My uncle has had a homestead outside town," Naomi explained. "He wrote to us years ago about silver being discovered. When he passed without heirs, he left the property to my father. Now it's mine." Adam raised an eyebrow. "You're planning to work a homestead alone?" "I haven't figured everything out yet," she admitted, "but I couldn't stay in Boston. There was nothing left for me there after Father died." They fell silent, each lost in thought as the night deepened around them. The coffee warmed Naomi's hands and settled her nerves. For the first time since the attack, she felt the tension ebbing from her shoulders. Adam cleared his throat. "We should get some rest. I'll take first watch." "You don't need to. I'd feel better," he interrupted gently. "Those bandits know there's a woman traveling with valuables. It's worth a few hours of lost sleep to be cautious." Naomi wanted to argue but found she couldn't. The reality of how close she'd come to being robbed or worse settled over her like a cold blanket. "Thank you," she said simply. As she climbed into her wagon to settle among her belongings, she heard Adam's quiet voice. "You're safe with me, Miss Turner. I promise you that." Something in his tone, absolute certainty, perhaps made her believe him. Despite everything, Naomi slept soundly that night, the cowboy's words echoing in her dreams. Morning brought dew-covered grass and birdsong. Naomi awakened to find Adam already tending the fire, coffee brewing and bacon sizzling in a small pan. "You should have woken me," she said, climbing down from the wagon. "I could have helped with breakfast," he shrugged. "You needed the rest." They ate quickly, eager to reach Georgetown before midday. As they packed up camp, Naomi noticed Adam wincing slightly when he lifted his saddle. "You're hurt," she said, moving closer. "Let me see." "It's nothing," he insisted, but she was already examining the tear in his shirt, revealing a gash along his side. "This happened during the fight," she stated, not asking. "Why didn't you say anything? Barely felt it in the moment. It's just a graze." Naomi retrieved her medical supplies from the wagon. "Sit. Now." To her surprise, Adam complied without further argument. She cleaned the wound carefully, applying a salve before bandaging it properly. "You've done this before," he observed. "I volunteered at the hospital in Boston," she explained. "After the war, there were still so many wounded soldiers needing care." His eyes met hers, something like respect dawning in them. "You're full of surprises, Miss Turner." The remainder of the journey passed without incident. As they crested the final hill, Georgetown came into view, a bustling frontier town nestled in a valley, with mountains rising dramatically behind it. Mining operations dotted the landscape, and the sound of construction echoed as they approached. "Bigger than I expected," Naomi commented as they entered the main street, drawing curious glances from townspeople. "Silver booms brought prosperity," Adam said, "and all kinds of folk, some good, some not so much." They stopped in front of the land office, a modest building with a freshly painted sign. Naomi hesitated before climbing down from her wagon. "I suppose this is where we part ways," she said, suddenly reluctant to bid farewell to the man who had protected her. Adam shifted in his saddle. "Actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to make sure you get settled at your uncle's place. Those bandits could still be in the area." Relief flooded through her. "I would appreciate that very much." The land agent, a portly man named Mr. Holbrook, greeted Naomi with surprise when she presented her papers. "Miss Turner, we weren't expecting you for another week at least. Your letter said mid-June." "The stagecoach connections were better than anticipated," she explained. "Is there a problem with my claim?" No, Holbrook assured her, shuffling through documents. "Everything's in order. Your uncle's place is about 3 miles north of town. Decent land, good water source. The house is, well, it's been empty for some months now." Naomi's heart sank slightly. "Is it habitable?" Holbrook looked uncomfortable. "It might need some work." Adam stepped forward. "I'd be happy to escort Miss Turner to the property and help assess what needs doing. I'm handy with tools." The land agent seemed relieved. "That would be most helpful, Mr. Morgan." "Adam Morgan." Holbrook handed over a set of keys and a crude map. "The road's marked clearly enough. There's a general store on your way out of town if you need supplies." By late afternoon, Naomi's optimism had dimmed considerably. The house was little more than a weathered cabin with a sagging porch and several broken windows. The land around it was overgrown, though she could see it had once been carefully tended. She struggled to find words that weren't utterly discouraging. "It's got good bones," Adam offered, already examining the structure. "Roof's mostly sound, foundations solid. Nothing a few days' work can't improve." Naomi stood in what had been her uncle's garden, fighting unexpected tears. The reality of her situation hit her fully alone in a strange place, with winter coming in a few months and a home that barely deserved the name. Adam approached quietly, seeming to sense her distress. "It's not what you hoped for." "I don't know what I hoped for," she admitted. "Something more than this, I suppose." He was silent for a moment, then said, "I can help you get it livable before I move on. Seems the least I can do." Naomi turned to him, studying his face for signs of pity or ulterior motives, but found only genuine concern. "Why would you do that?" she asked directly. Adam's gaze drifted to the mountains behind them. "Been drifting a long time. Feels good to do something that matters." His eyes returned to hers. "You matter, Miss Turner." The simple statement touched her more deeply than flowery declarations ever could have. "I can't pay you much. Room and board while I work is enough," he said. "I've got some savings from the cattle drives." "Then I accept," she replied, surprising herself with how quickly the decision came. "And please call me Naomi." A smile spread across his face, transforming his features. "Naomi it is." They spent that first night making the main room habitable, sweeping out dust and debris, patching the worst of the broken windows with oilcloth, and creating a sleeping area for Naomi near the stone fireplace. Adam insisted on sleeping in the wagon until they could properly repair the second room. Over the next week, they fell into an easy rhythm of work. Adam focused on structural repairs while Naomi cleaned, organized, and began to plant a small garden with seeds she'd brought from Boston. They took meals together, sharing stories as they worked. Naomi learned that Adam had lost his parents young and been raised by an uncle who worked the railroads. He'd fought briefly in the closing months of the Civil War, though he spoke little of that time. After drifting through Texas and Kansas, he'd found work as a cowhand, eventually becoming skilled enough to command decent wages on the cattle drives. Never stayed in one place long enough to call it home, he admitted one evening as they sat on the newly repaired porch. "Always figured the next town might be the one that stuck." "And now?" Naomi asked. His eyes met hers briefly before returning to the sunset. "Georgetown has possibilities." She told him of her life in Boston, of her father's business importing fabrics and spices, of her mother's death when Naomi was 16. She spoke of her brief engagement to the son of her father's business partner, a match that had dissolved when her father's death revealed the business was deeply in debt. "Edward withdrew his proposal rather quickly when he learned I would bring no dowry," she said, trying to keep the bitterness from her voice. "In retrospect, it was a blessing. I would have been miserable as his wife." Adam's jaw tightened. His loss. As days turned into weeks, the homestead began to transform. The cabin's exterior was repaired and weatherproofed, the second bedroom made habitable. Adam built sturdy furniture from lumber. They purchased in town a table with 4 chairs, bookshelves for Naomi's collection, a proper bed frame to replace her temporary arrangement. Naomi found herself watching him as he worked, admiring the strength in his hands and the care he took with each task. More than once, she caught him looking at her similarly when he thought she wouldn't notice. They ventured into town regularly for supplies, gradually becoming familiar faces to the locals. Georgetown was growing rapidly, the silver mines bringing prosperity and people from all directions. There was talk of the railroad extending a line directly to town within the year. On one such trip, nearly a month after their arrival, Adam and Naomi were leaving the general store when a voice called out, "Well, if it ain't the hero Cowboy." Naomi turned to see 3 men approaching, 3 very familiar men. The bandit leader, his hand now wrapped in a dirty bandage, leered at her. "Been looking for you too," he snarled. "You cost us a nice payday, Morgan." Adam stepped in front of Naomi, his hand moving to his pistol. "You're making a mistake," he said quietly. "Walk away now," the leader laughed. "In the middle of town. You won't draw here. Try me." The tension was broken by the appearance of a badge-wearing man with a shotgun. "Something the matter here, folks." "Sheriff Davis," Adam acknowledged without taking his eyes off the bandits. "These men attacked Miss Turner on the road to Georgetown last month, tried to rob her wagon." The sheriff's expression hardened. "That's so. We've had reports of similar incidents." He leveled his shotgun at the three men. "I think you boys better come with me while we sort this out." For a moment, it seemed the bandits might resist, but facing both Adam's steady hand and the sheriff's weapon, they relented. "This ain't over," the leader muttered as he was led away. Adam's arm came around Naomi's shoulders. "Let's get you home." The encounter shook Naomi more than she wanted to admit. That night, unable to sleep, she found Adam sitting on the porch, rifle across his lap. "You should rest," she said, joining him on the bench he'd crafted. "Just being cautious." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the night air cool against their skin. "I've been thinking," Adam finally said. "I should stay on a bit longer, at least until they sort out those bandits properly." "You don't need to make excuses to stay, Adam," Naomi replied softly. His eyes found hers in the moonlight. "Is that what you think I'm doing, aren't you? The cabin is repaired. The garden is planted. You've more than repaid any debt you imagined owing me." Adam set the rifle aside, turning to face her fully. "Maybe I've found reasons to stay beyond obligation." Naomi's heart quickened. Such as, instead of answering with words, Adam reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wished. When she didn't, his hand cupped her cheek gently. "I've never met anyone like you," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "You're brave and stubborn and so damn determined to make this place work." "Language, Mr. Morgan," she teased, though her voice trembled slightly. A smile touched his lips. "Pardon me, madam." The kiss, when it came, was tender at first, a question more than a demand. Naomi answered by leaning into him, her hands finding their way to his shoulders. The kiss deepened, years of loneliness melting away as they found comfort in each other's arms. When they finally parted, breathless, Adam rested his forehead against hers. "I should go back to my room." "You should," she agreed, though neither made any move to separate. "People will talk if they knew I kissed you like this." Naomi smiled. "I don't particularly care what people say." Adam laughed softly. "That's my girl." The words sent warmth spreading through her chest. His girl. Yes, she realized. That's exactly what she wanted to be. The following morning brought news from town. The bandits had been identified as members of a gang operating throughout the territory. With witnesses now coming forward, they faced significant jail time. Naomi felt a weight lift from her shoulders, knowing they wouldn't threaten her again. As summer progressed into early fall, Adam found steady work at one of the silver mines, returning to the homestead each evening. Naomi sold vegetables from her thriving garden in the town market and began taking in mending work, her skilled needlework quickly earning her a reputation. Their evenings were spent together on the porch or by the fire, talking, reading, sometimes just enjoying comfortable silence. The kisses they shared grew bolder, though Adam always pulled back before things went too far, his respect for her evident in his restraint. One evening in late September, Adam returned from the mine earlier than usual, a determined expression on his face. "Everything all right?" Naomi asked as he washed up for dinner. "Better than all right," he replied. "I've got something to show you after we eat." Curiosity piqued, Naomi hurried through their meal. Once the dishes were cleared, Adam took her hand, leading her outside and toward a small rise behind the cabin. "What are we looking at?" she asked as they reached the top. Adam pointed to a flat area about 100 yards away. "That land there. It's good ground, gets sun most of the day, plenty of space." "Space for what? A proper house," he said simply. The cabin's fine for now, but if we're going to build a life here, we should have a home that can grow with us." Naomi's breath caught. "Adam." He turned to her, taking both her hands in his. "I know it's fast. We've known each other barely 3 months. But I've never been more certain of anything in my life." He dropped to one knee, still holding her hands. "Naomi Turner, I love you. I love your strength and your kindness and the way you hum when you're working in the garden. I want to build that house with you, plant more gardens, maybe raise some horses, and children if you want them. I want to wake up beside you every morning for the rest of my days." Tears blurred Naomi's vision. "Are you asking me to marry you, Cowboy?" A smile lit his face. "I believe I am, yes." "Will you?" "Yes," she answered without hesitation. "Yes, I will marry you, Adam Morgan." He stood, lifting her off her feet in an embrace that spoke of all the joy they both felt. When he set her down, his expression turned slightly sheepish. "I don't have a ring yet. Been saving for it from my mine wages." Naomi shook her head. "I don't need a ring. I just need you." Their wedding took place 2 weeks later in Georgetown's small church. The town had embraced them both, Adam for his honest work and quiet strength, Naomi for her generous spirit and determination. The sheriff stood as Adam's best man, while the wife of the general store owner attended Naomi. They spent their wedding night in the cabin, which Naomi had decorated with wildflowers and candles. Any nervousness she felt dissolved in the tenderness with which Adam loved her, his whispered words of adoration making her feel cherished in ways she'd never imagined possible. As winter approached, construction began on their new house. The whole town seemed to participate in some way, miners offering labor on their days off, the sawmill providing lumber at reduced cost, women bringing food to the workers. By the first snowfall, the main structure was complete, allowing them to move in before the worst of the weather hit. Their first Christmas together was simple but perfect. Adam gifted Naomi a fine sewing machine he'd ordered from Denver, while she presented him with a hand-tooled leather saddle she'd secretly commissioned from the local leatherworker. They sat before their new fireplace, planning the spring's projects: a proper barn, expanded gardens, maybe a few cattle to start a small herd. "I never thought I'd find this," Adam confessed, holding Naomi close as snow fell outside their windows. "A home, someone to share it with." "Neither did I," she admitted. "When those bandits attacked my wagon, I thought I'd made a terrible mistake coming west." Adam kissed her forehead. "Fate has strange ways of bringing people together." Spring arrived with new possibilities. The railroad construction brought even more prosperity to Georgetown, and Adam's knowledge of cattle led to an opportunity managing a small ranch operation for one of the mine owners. The position came with better pay and more regular hours than mining work. Naomi's garden business flourished, and she began teaching sewing classes to young women in town. Their house continued to improve with each passing month: curtains at the windows, paintings on the walls, furniture crafted with care. In early summer, almost exactly a year after they'd met, Naomi shared news that brought Adam to happy tears. They were expecting their first child. "A baby," he whispered, placing his hand gently on her still flat stomach. "Our baby. Are you pleased?" she asked, though his expression left little doubt. "More than I can say," he answered, gathering her close. "I love you, Naomi Morgan. You've given me everything I never knew I wanted." Their son, James William Morgan, was born on a crisp February morning in 1878, with snow piled high outside and a roaring fire keeping their bedroom warm. He had his father's eyes and his mother's determined spirit, crying lustily as he entered the world. Adam held his son with awe, whispering promises of fishing trips and horseback riding, of teaching him to build and to farm and to be a good man. Naomi watched them together, her heart so full it seemed it might burst. In the years that followed, the Morgan homestead grew into one of the most prosperous in the area. Adam's cattle operation expanded, eventually becoming his primary business. Naomi's gardens became renowned throughout the region, and she published a small guide to high country gardening that sold well in Denver and beyond. James was joined by a sister, Elizabeth Rose, in 1880, and another brother, Thomas Henry, in 1883. The house expanded to accommodate their growing family, with Adam adding rooms as needed, always with an eye toward comfort and beauty. Through it all, Adam and Naomi remained devoted to each other. They faced hardships together: harsh winters, economic downturns, illness, but also celebrated countless joys. Each evening, no matter how busy their days had been, they would sit together on their porch, watching the sunset paint the mountains in gold and purple. "You ever regret it?" Adam asked one such evening in 1886, as they observed their children playing in the yard. "Coming west, marrying a rough cowboy instead of a Boston gentleman." Naomi took his hand, the same hand that had protected her that day on the dusty road, the hand that had built their home and cradled their children. "Not for a single moment," she answered truthfully. "That day when you rode up to my wagon and fought off those bandits, that was the luckiest day of my life." Adam smiled, the lines around his eyes deeper now but still crinkling in the way she loved. "Mine too." "You're safe with me," she echoed his words from long ago. "That's what you said." "And I meant it," he replied, drawing her close. "Always will." As twilight deepened into night, they remained together on the porch, surrounded by the life they had built through love, determination, and the chance encounter that had changed everything. From a desperate moment on a lonely road had grown something beautiful, and enduring, a love story written in the wild landscapes of the West, a testament to the power of finding home in each other's hearts. 10 years later, in the summer of 1896, Georgetown had grown from a mining boomtown into a stable community. The silver crash of 1893 had affected many, but the Morgans had diversified enough to weather the economic storm. Their cattle ranch now sprawled over several hundred acres, and Naomi's seed business shipped specialized high-altitude varieties throughout the West. Their children were growing up. James, now 18, had inherited his father's build and his mother's intellect. He divided his time between working the ranch and studying engineering, with plans to attend university in Denver the following year. Elizabeth, 16, showed remarkable talent with horses, training even the most difficult animals with a gentle touch and unwavering patience. Thomas, 13, was the dreamer of the family, always with his nose in a book about far-off places. One particular evening, the family gathered for a special dinner. It was Adam and Naomi's 20th wedding anniversary, and they had invited friends and neighbors to celebrate with them. The house was filled with laughter and conversation as people shared stories of the early days. Sheriff Davis, now retired but still imposing, recounted for the younger generation how he'd first met the Morgans. "Those bandits never knew what hit them," he chuckled. "Your father there, he stood up to 3 armed men without blinking an eye, all to protect your mother." James looked at his father with renewed appreciation. "You never told us the whole story." Adam shrugged modestly. "Wasn't much to tell. Right place, right time." "Your father's being humble," Naomi interjected, her hand finding Adam's across the table. "He saved my life that day, and every day since in different ways." After the guests departed, the family lingered on the wide porch that wrapped around their home. The structure bore little resemblance to the original cabin. This was a proper ranch house now, with large windows, multiple bedrooms, and a stone chimney that anchored the center of the home. Adam brought out a small package wrapped in silk cloth. "I have something for you," he said to Naomi. She unwrapped it carefully to reveal a locket of polished silver. When opened, it contained miniature portraits of their 3 children on one side and Adam on the other. "It's beautiful," she whispered, touching it reverently. "Turn it over," Adam suggested. Engraved on the back were the words, "You're safe with me. Forever." Tears filled Naomi's eyes as she remembered that first night when a stranger had promised her protection and delivered so much more. She leaned against Adam's shoulder, the years falling away as she recalled the young woman she had been and the cowboy who had changed her life. "I love you, Adam Morgan," she said simply, words that had been spoken thousands of times between them but never lost their meaning. "And I love you, Naomi Morgan," he replied, kissing her softly. The children exchanged glances, used to their parents' displays of affection but still touched by the depth of feeling between them. Later that night, after the children had gone to bed, Adam and Naomi walked hand in hand under the starlight, following the path to the old cabin. They had preserved it over the years, using it as a guest house and sometimes retreating there themselves when they wanted solitude. 20 years, Adam mused as they approached the structure, moonlight silvering its weathered wood. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday that I saw you on that road, and sometimes it feels like we've always been together," Naomi replied, "as if my life before you was just preparation." Inside the cabin, they had placed mementos of their journey, the first chair Adam had built for their table, dried flowers from Naomi's original garden, a drawing James had made as a child of their family standing before their home. Adam lit the lantern, casting a warm glow throughout the small space. "I had a different life planned, you know. Before I met you, was going to work the mines for a year or two, save up, then keep moving. Never thought I'd stay." "What changed your mind?" Naomi asked, though she knew the answer. His arms encircled her waist, pulling her close. Even after 20 years and 3 children, his touch still sent warmth spreading through her body. "You did," he said simply. "You made me want to build something lasting, something real." They danced slowly in the lantern light, no music needed beyond the rhythm of their hearts beating together. The cabin creaked around them, a familiar sound that had once been the backdrop to their beginning. "We should come here more often," Naomi murmured against his chest. "It reminds me of how far we've come." "And where we started," Adam agreed. "Everything I have, everything I am now, it all began right here." They made love in the cabin that night, as passionate as newlyweds, yet with the deep understanding that only comes with years of sharing a life. Their connection had only strengthened with time, each challenge faced together forging an unbreakable bond. As they lay together afterward, Naomi traced the scar on Adam's side, the wound from that first confrontation with the bandits, now a faded line on his skin. "You ever wonder about them?" she asked. "The men who attacked my wagon?" "Sometimes," Adam admitted. "Last I heard, the leader died in prison. The others served their time and moved on. Strange to think that if they hadn't chosen your wagon that day, we might never have met." Naomi contemplated this. "I don't believe that. I think we were meant to find each other one way or another." Adam smiled in the darkness. "The romantic view. Is that so hard to believe? That some things are destined?" "Not when I'm with you," he said, kissing her softly. "With you, I believe anything is possible." The following spring brought new beginnings. James departed for university. Elizabeth began training horses professionally for neighboring ranches, and Thomas discovered a talent for writing, filling journals with stories of the West. Adam and Naomi found themselves adjusting to a quieter household, rediscovering aspects of their relationship that had sometimes been set aside during the busy years of raising children. They traveled more to Denver for the theater, to the hot springs in Glenwood for Adam's occasional back pain, even once to Boston, where Naomi showed Adam the city of her youth. The trip confirmed for both of them that Georgetown was truly home, the place where they belonged together. In the autumn of that year, Naomi received a letter that brought both sorrow and unexpected opportunity. Her cousin in Boston had passed away, leaving her a substantial inheritance. After discussion with Adam, they decided to establish a foundation to help women traveling west alone, providing safe transport, temporary housing, and assistance finding work or land. "I want to make sure other women have the support I didn't have," Naomi explained as they worked out the details. "Not everyone is fortunate enough to have a cowboy ride to their rescue." Adam smiled at that. "You would have managed without me. You're the strongest person I know." "Perhaps," she acknowledged, "but I'm grateful every day that I didn't have to." The Morgan Women's Settlement Foundation became Naomi's passion project over the next several years. She traveled throughout Colorado, meeting with women in need and connecting them with resources. Adam supported her fully, often accompanying her on longer journeys and expanding their ranch operations to help fund the foundation's work. By 1905, nearly 30 years after their first meeting, Adam and Naomi had become pillars of the community. Their children had grown into remarkable adults. James now ran a successful engineering firm in Denver but visited often. Elizabeth had married a local rancher and lived nearby with their 2 children. Thomas had published his first collection of Western stories to modest acclaim and was working on a novel. Age had touched them both. Adam's dark hair, now liberally streaked with silver, Naomi's face lined with the evidence of a life filled with both laughter and concern. Yet they remained vigorous, rising early each morning to tend to their responsibilities and finding joy in their shared work. One crisp October morning, as they enjoyed coffee on their porch, a wagon approached their property, a sight that immediately transported them both back in time. The young woman driving it looked tired but determined, her posture straight despite obvious exhaustion. Adam and Naomi exchanged glances, memories of another wagon on another road passing between them without words. They walked together to greet the visitor, who introduced herself as Clara Wilson. Recently widowed and seeking assistance from the Morgan Foundation she'd heard about in Denver. "You've come to the right place," Naomi assured her, leading the woman inside while Adam tended to her horses. Over tea, Clara shared her story: a husband lost to mining accident, a small inheritance barely covering debts, a determination to build a new life somewhere she wouldn't be known, only as poor Mrs. Wilson. As Naomi outlined the ways the foundation could help, Adam watched his wife with profound admiration. The compassion in her eyes, the practical advice she offered, the quiet strength she radiated, all of it reminded him why he had fallen in love with her so many years ago. Later, after arranging temporary accommodation for Clara in town, Adam and Naomi rode together across their property, something they still did several times a week. Age had not diminished their enjoyment of the land they had nurtured for 3 decades. "Seeing Clara today," Naomi said as they paused atop a ridge overlooking their ranch, "it brought everything back. How frightened I was that day, how desperate." Adam nodded, understanding completely. "Life has a way of coming full circle." "She'll be all right," Naomi said with certainty. "She has what I didn't have then, a community ready to help her succeed." "A community you built," Adam reminded her. Naomi shook her head. "We built, Adam. Everything good in my life has been because of us together." As the sun began to set, painting the mountains in familiar gold and crimson, they turned their horses toward home. The large house glowed warmly in the distance, smoke curling from the chimney where Thomas would be preparing dinner during his visit home. "I've been thinking," Adam said as they rode side by side, "about taking a step back from the daily ranch operations. James's boy is nearly old enough to start learning the business, and Williams is more than capable of managing things. Are you ready for that?" Naomi asked, knowing how much the ranch meant to him. "I'm ready for more time with you," he answered simply. "We've built something lasting here. Now I want to enjoy it with you while we can." Naomi reached across the space between their horses, taking his hand. "I'd like that very much." In the years that followed, Adam and Naomi found new rhythms to their life together. They remained involved in the ranch and foundation, but delegated more responsibility to the next generation. They traveled when they wished, read books aloud to each other on quiet evenings, and welcomed grandchildren with open arms and endless patience. On their 40th wedding anniversary in 1916, their children organized a celebration that brought together nearly the entire town. The event was held on the ranch, with tables set up beneath the ancient cottonwood trees that had witnessed so much of their history. During the festivities, Thomas, now an established author whose stories of the West had found a national audience, stood to make a toast. "40 years ago," he began, "a young woman's wagon was attacked by bandits on the road to Georgetown. A cowboy fought them off and said, 'You're safe with me.' None of us here today would exist if not for that moment, not just my siblings and I, but the hundreds of women helped by Mother's Foundation, the families supported by Father's ranch, the community strengthened by their commitment to this place and its people." He raised his glass, emotion evident in his voice. "To Adam and Naomi Morgan, who showed us all what it means to build a life with purpose, to love without reservation, and to create safety for others as well as themselves." As glasses clinked and voices called out good wishes, Adam turned to Naomi, finding her eyes bright with unshed tears. "You remember what you said to me that first morning after the attack?" she asked quietly. "When I was fretting about reaching town safely." Adam smiled, the memory clear despite the decades between. "I said many things that morning. You told me the road ahead may be rough, but we'll travel it together, and we have, haven't we? Every mile of it." "Every mile," he agreed, taking her hand in his. "And I wouldn't change a single step of the journey." As evening fell and lanterns were lit around the property, Adam and Naomi slipped away from the celebration, walking arm in arm to their favorite spot, the rise behind the original cabin where Adam had proposed all those years ago. The view had changed somewhat, more buildings dotting the landscape, fences marking property lines that hadn't existed before, but the mountains remained eternal, watching over the valley as they always had. "You know what I'm most proud of?" Adam asked as they stood together, his arm around her shoulders. "Tell me," Naomi prompted, leaning into his familiar embrace. "That we kept our promises. All of them. When I told you that you were safe with me, I meant it with everything I had. And I've spent 40 years making sure it remained true." "And when I promised to build a life with you," Naomi responded, "I had no idea how grand that life would become. But I knew, even then, that as long as we were together, it would be enough." They stayed there until the stars emerged. Two figures silhouetted against the evening sky, a cowboy and the woman whose wagon he had defended, whose heart he had won, whose life he had shared through 4 decades of love, challenge, and profound joy. Their story, which began with a chance encounter on a dusty road, had become woven into the fabric of Georgetown itself, a testament to courage, commitment, and the transformative power of love that arrives unexpectedly but endures forever. In the years that followed, as they grew older together, Adam and Naomi continued to find joy in the simple rhythms of their shared life. They watched grandchildren grow, welcomed great-grandchildren, and celebrated each milestone with gratitude for the time they had been given together. When Adam passed peacefully in his sleep at the age of 82, Naomi was at his side, holding the hand that had first reached out to help her from the dust after the bandit attack. She lived another 3 years, tending the garden that had become her legacy and completing a memoir of their life together for future generations. On her last day, surrounded by family in the home Adam had built for her, Naomi looked out at the mountains that had witnessed their entire story and smiled. "I'm coming home, Cowboy," she whispered. "Keep me safe, like you always promised." And somewhere beyond the veil that separates this world from the next, perhaps a young cowboy waited on horseback, ready to ride beside his beloved once more, forever safe in each other's hearts, their love a beacon that would guide their descendants for generations to come.